Hello, can someone hear me?
How are we now? I could hear you.
Okay, good.
CD, what's up?
Hi, it's Christine. I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm hanging in there. I'm bracing for the heat that's about to come our way.
Oh boy, yeah.
Figuratively
totally
and literally.
I know.
Yeah.
Should be a good live though. It should be a good live.
I hope so. I've jotted down a few things and some resources in case people need.
That's perfect.
Good.
And what we just have to do is just look for the hands that are up.
Gotcha.
I see my little Kala has a hand up, but if you want to just a little brief intro yourself, I did one last time. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, I will do that.
And if you don't have to go fully, and you go as detailed as you want to be. You don't have to go into whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. Do I need to push the little microphone button?
No, they could hear us. No, they could hear us.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Christine, also known as I Was Born in a Small Town on Reddit. I am a retired law enforcement officer of nearly 25 years. I also have specialized in cases involving domestic violence, child abuse, and sex offenses. And I've become quite the, I don't want to say expert, but connoisseur, if you will, of trauma treatment and therapies and theories. So I'm here to answer any questions and provide whatever insight I can. And I appreciate everyone listening. And I appreciate CD and Zanny for helping me get this thing up and running.
No problem. No problem. And that's pretty amazing how you went into that field, where you pushed to the trauma side.
Yeah, I kind of have to. I kind of had to.
Okay, I could get that. I can understand that.
Yeah. It's been a long journey, and I'm not where I thought I started. Where I thought I'd be when I started. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I could totally understand that. I mean, just you get pushed in different directions. You got to go where they want you to go.
Yep.
Which is fine.
Absolutely.
So we could let's see who wants to bring up the first question, and we could just go from there.
All right.
See whose hand is up, and we could go.
All right.
Do you see any hands?
I
saw my little Kala had her hand up.
Yeah, I don't see any hands right now, but I did see yours when you had yours up a little bit ago. Or
I
someone.
Gotta put it up. Yeah, it's my mistake. I was 5 minutes late because my kids are off from school.
Oh, sure. Oh, no problem. I just wanted to make sure.
On the way to the park with my wife, so I had to get them out of the house.
Oh, sure.
Let's see who is. Does anybody have their hands up?
I don't. Do you see any hands? I don't. Oh, there's one. Hi, Christine. It's the other Christine. How are you?
Hey. I guess I'll ask a question.
Sure.
This is for like trauma.
Okay.
Or is it for trauma or law enforcement?
It's for both. Yeah, it's for both. Yeah, either one. Yep.
All right. Like the video that Becky Patty just did where she's blaming herself, like how do you think she's gonna what kind of specialization, like what kind of psychiatry or therapy is needed for that kind of thing? I just felt really bad seeing her on that video.
Yeah, I did too. CD, do you want to take a crack at this?
It's actually, we spoke about this, I believe, on the last RedTalk, and how the families with anything that's coming out, for 5 years they believed that social media had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And then they get hit hard with, oh no, it does, and they're reading the transcripts. It's dramatic. They're reliving this over and over again.
Yeah.
And until some justice comes, not that that's going to take away the pain, because it's not. It'll close part of everything they're dealing with.
Absolutely. It can pretty much engulf your whole life. And that is not, that's not a knock to other trauma survivors who have had great difficulty. It's what happens with all of us that have significant trauma, whether it be long-term complex trauma or a single event. I would classify this as probably two different traumas, actually. The single event of their deaths, and then whatever has happened in this case online and with the media since then.
That's very true. You bring that up because it's repeating itself. They're reliving it over and over again.
Over and over again, and that is very common in trauma survivors. There's a lot of different types of therapy that folks can get into to handle trauma. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a clinician, but what I've learned in my own experience and also working with professionals is that the first thing really is to make sure that they find a therapist that they trust. They're not going to be able to make any goals or hit any goals or make any progress toward therapy if they don't have someone that they trust, that they know understands them, and most importantly, they know has their back and is on their side no matter what. That's a lot, because the self-blame and just blaming yourself constantly, that's kind of like the base of how the trauma pyramid is built. It starts with shame and self-hate and self-loathing, and it just kind of builds from there. So tackling that very beginning part of the trauma, which results in, the shame and the hate, it's really tough. And if I had a magic wand I could wave to heal everyone of that, I would do it in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. It takes on average, I just read this morning, it takes on average someone who has complex trauma, which is a long-term incident such as this, can take them over 10 years of real therapy addressing the trauma issues before they can actually be considered not healed, because you're never going to be fully healed, but more functional and more able to handle the things that come with being a trauma survivor. It's very
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I have that. I go to a psychiatrist every 3 months. But I was also wondering, by them releasing those transcripts, I think it just, all it did was really hurt the family more instead of going through the proper procedures. And I just don't understand how, Ellie is law enforcement can't do anything about that. It just really it's so frustrating.
There's only so much they can do, though.
I know.
That's the problem, is that they're saying it was a clerical error. Was it? It could be, and it's out there. The lawyer, quite a few lawyers grabbed it. It wasn't just murder sheets. Quite a few lawyers did grab it.
Oh, really?
When you hear Becky, the way she talks about it and how she's now seeing that it was social media and taking blame, like she did something wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. We all know she didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
She was being the best parent that she could be. The girls went to the trails, pretty often, Kelsey and Libby. So it's not like it wasn't just a place they've never been to. They've been there. So that's you feel somewhat safe. I mean, that's all of us as parents. We all feel safe letting our kids go. That's just the blaming is tough. It really is. It's sad.
I just checked my my son's phone last night, and he got really pissed off. And he's 16.
Yeah,
I checked all of that. He's actually here right now.
Yeah.
This is a cop right now. Hey, N. He's sitting in the living room with me. He was like, "Why are you checking my phone? This is my personal information."
I know.
But I checked all the apps. So
it's tough. It's tough because yes, you want to have a line, especially your kids 16, 17. You want to have a line where you want to give them freedom, but at the same time, you see what's out there. These people are professional predators. That's exactly what they are.
Yep.
They'll speak to 300 kids before they get one that gives them something, but they don't care. Look, Kegan, he spent his whole days in his room living a lie online and just contacting until somebody would give him something. It's manipulation. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a lot of different things. And for him to say that he's being, harassed by law enforcement, it's a joke. It's a joke.
I can't believe. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's such a joke. There's a
funny
reason. And like I say all the time, there's a reason he has 30 counts above his head. As you see, if you see other cases like this, they'll have 5, 6, 7, charges. he has 30 charges for a reason. He holds the key to the Delphi case. That's I've been saying it since it started. Since
I agree.
we
I think
moved
that's how
about
they
in
found
December.
all these people.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
Even before the Anthony Shots thing was released in December, you were seeing, from the summer, you were seeing all different people arrested. CSAM. They were getting it from somewhere.
Yeah, that's why I think they let him go. Honestly,
a lot of these people, right? A lot of these, like it's like an escalation when it comes to this. Like some are just like they're just voyeurs. They don't want to contact anybody, but want to view the pictures. But it elevates over time to where that's not enough for them. So then they got to start contacting, and then that's not enough for them. Then they start assaulting. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
it's like a ladder.
I can see that.
It's like a ladder.
It's almost like you build up a tolerance to a drug. You start with just viewing the pictures on your own, and then you need more.
It becomes an addiction. Yep. It becomes an addiction, and they get so deep to where, look, Kegan was 24 hours. That's why when people say, could Kegan have done this alone? It's highly possible. But yes, he did threaten. Remember, he went and met the girls. The other set of, we were supposed to meet one girl at a park, and she brought a friend.
Exactly.
And got angry.
Yes.
He did make a meet, but he threatened violence. But we have never seen, violence from him.
Exactly.
From somebody else in the home, we've seen a lot of violence. That's why it's Kegan, whatever. I don't even give him the way of saying.
I don't know either.
But even if his name is Kegan, who cares? He's a piece of garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah. He is. He's a predator. And we haven't seen violence from him. I know his stepbrother went into it. How he could get snap and stuff, but he doesn't. To me, he doesn't look like the guy who would do this. But I could be wrong. It could be him by himself, but I just don't think it is.
I just wanted to start this off for you guys.
And remember, law enforcement. Remember, two guys that interrogated him did say they don't believe he did it, and I don't believe they would say that to him just to put him at ease.
I don't either.
You don't gain anything from that in an interrogation. That's why, I know everybody has their theories, whatever. There's ways you do things in interrogations. You start off with what they're there for, and it branches out. And I just don't see them telling him, we don't think you did it, as a lie.
Yeah, that's why I love DelphiDocs, because you guys are all factual on here. And we have verified police and doctors and psychiatrists. So that way we can get the real information. Yeah.
If you're not factual, it's like throwing a line out fishing. Things just start getting out of hand and crazy. You have to be factual with what's going on. Yes, it sucks that transcripts were released, but it gives us a little more insight as to where they're going.
That's true. All right. Thank you guys.
Sure. Thank you for the question.
Thanks. Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
Who has another question? Come on up. You just have to share your mic. If you know that, you have to share your mic and your settings on your phone.
I did, I believe.
No, you're good. That's why you're able to talk.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. If anybody was say somebody was here and they didn't share their mic, they won't even hear us until we put a replay out.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Danny, you're here. Do you have a question or no? I know you don't like coming on speaking. I see that mic is blocked. It's okay. It's all good. I get it.
I keep seeing that there's different folks popping up here.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's like some will leave, some will come. It'll keep revolving in new people.
So when it's kind of a circle kind of swirling around it, is that them raising their hand, or is that something different?
I can't even do it now because I'm here. But you'll actually see like a hand, it's like a white. I think it's whitish. It's a whitish hand you'll see up.
Gotcha.
Like around their profile.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Arky,
okay.
Can you hear us? You want to come and say? You have any questions, Arky? You gave a couple questions last time. I also think it's tough because it's Easter week, and I really didn't pay attention to that when we scheduled it. But listen, we could do plenty of these, and they're informative. They a lot of questions come in.
I didn't even think about that either.
And just so everybody knows, it's a law enforcement question. Oh, Christine, here we go. See Christine's hand up? You see it?
Yeah.
Now how do I invite her to talk?
Push on the hand. There it is. Invite to speak. Okay, I got her.
Go. All right, got her. Good.
I don't know what happened.
No, she just said, there she goes.
I was on mute.
There you go.
Are you guys going to talk about Fig's theory or no? Are we doing that or no?
You can. I've been busy. I didn't hear all of it. I know they were live today. I just haven't had a second to get to it.
Okay.
And
But
I
tell
haven't
me
either.
what you. I heard some of the video he put out because I know some of the video he put out. So you could go into it and I'll see what you got.
No, it's really really good. The theory he has is like with the sketches, how they're the same person, and basically he shows like, you know, on the map, like basically the route he thinks that the BG whatever took.
Yeah.
But and the place that it shows like him, okay, he goes over, I don't know, like I guess if the girls ran over there to Logan's land or what, but it shows them him crossing then crossing back over, and then changing.
Crossing the creek again?
Yeah. He has them crossing the creek 3 times. And a lot of people are really confused about that. But I remember in the very beginning, like the first year, they had checked like a garage or a barn or something, like it was like I think twice. And it's like over in that area where he said they were changed. Yeah.
Wasn't that the Mears barn that they checked?
Yeah, not yet. I didn't want to say like a name or whatever,
Okay,
but yeah,
fine.
I wasn't sure about
that's
that.
the one it is. That might be.
Yeah, back there, like, you know, towards the south end of the bridge over there, I guess. Okay. He went back that way, and that's where there was, I guess, multiple like searches of a garage. And that's like the kind of the same area where he thinks the guy had changed and perhaps even shaved the facial hair off. We don't know. He didn't know that really, but it was like speculation on that part. And then changed his clothes. And then
that would be. I don't think anybody would shave right after this.
Yeah, but I think that like basically he was kind of iffy about that part. But he said like basically like he thinks that's where he probably changed his clothes, put everything in the bag, took his hat off, changed his clothes, because obviously the clothes he was wearing were probably messed up. But there was something over there that led the cops over there to do like multiple searches. So I'm wondering if he like accidentally left something there or what. So
what I wish would have happened is that they had canines there, because
didn't they have them after?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if they even got there after. They were on the way on the 14th. They were coming from out of state, and they found the girls, and I believe they did call them off.
They turned them off when they were in Illinois. They hadn't even gotten there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Indiana, big state. I just can't believe they have. I mean, I understand Carroll County only had 13 officers at a time. I think that's still what they have, including the sheriff. So yeah, funding and whatnot. It's hard to have a canine. I get it. You know.
Yeah.
Me being even when I started in the city, I can't even tell you how many canines there were. You know, we had a couple of kids, 16, 17 that probably went and they just ran away for a night, but the canine would come and they would do a search from the house. I mean, it's just good to have. I mean, it's a tool that you need.
Exactly. I mean, especially for kids that are missing or hurt or anything.
I get it. It wasn't, every police department didn't have a canine. That's fine. You're talking about even 2017. You got to have a dog, You think
they would have one in like Lafayette or like Indy or something, like somewhere closer.
Even Indianapolis.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Indy PD? I'm sure Indy PD has a canine unit. I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they do.
I know for a fact they do, because I've been searching on a certain somebody who might have relatives. Not. I'm not saying it's definitely to do with the case, but just somebody I'm looking at that has family that works in Indianapolis and whatnot. But they do have canines there. That's a fact. Why they didn't reach out to them, I have no idea.
Ego.
I mean, also it could be procedure. I don't know if Indianapolis would, let one of their canines leave, the city, because that could come into like a lawsuit and stuff. God forbid somebody gets bit. That might be why.
Oh, okay. You would know that because you know those procedures. So.
Oh yeah. But my whole career, we always had dogs around. I mean, one time I'll tell you, I had a crazy car chase. I was the only one on the guy. We went on the highway. We were doing over 100 miles an hour. They threw a bag of drugs out of the car, and it's just me. The other guy that was with me, he couldn't keep up. Something happened with the car. He had to slow down. So I'm calling for backup over and over again. I'm like, what is going on? Where is everybody? Nobody's around me. And then finally, we're getting off an exit. and like 15 cars came right behind me. It was one of the best feelings in the world, because when you have somebody who has a stolen car and you know they're a bad person, there was a female in the back waving to me, like, help me, kind of like
Oh
saying
my
she was kidnapped.
God.
Oh, it was bad. Oh, it was really bad. And he finally crashed into a tree, thank God there were no serious injuries. But the dog, the department that we were in, that, the jurisdiction we landed in, their dog almost bit me getting out of the car because he was so amped up. That's just the way it is. They're beyond amped up. So, I mean, could that be the play, that they're worried about bringing a dog outside Indianapolis? That's a possibility. That could be.
Hey, I wanted to pop in real quick if I could.
Yeah.
I used to be married to a state trooper in Lafayette.
Oh, okay.
And it was we got divorced in 2011, so this was quite a bit before this case happened. But he used to serve in Carroll County and stuff, like in the small counties around Lafayette.
Yep.
And
as a trooper, right?
Yeah, as a trooper. Okay. Yeah, and
they have certain roads and whatnot that they even different highways they patrol. Yep.
Yeah, and he did. He was in Delphi for a while too. He actually was. No, he didn't. And I don't actually recall any of the state troopers having a canine at that point.
Wow, really?
Which was kind of maddening to me, because you expect that.
Of course.
Especially for troopers.
Of course. But now, I mean, now even I'm in New York. Even in New York, it's pretty close to each trooper barracks. Each one has like at least one canine.
Yeah, and it might have changed now.
It could be fun, because let me tell you something. They're not cheap. They are not.
No.
Getting a good dog could be 10, 12,000 plus the training. So you're talking about at least $25,000 plus. Then the officer has to go, and if you're not trained, if you don't have your own training, your own canine training center at your job, you go to a place. I know places that go for like 4 to 6 months, and they're there training with their dog.
Yeah, and
so,
then
it does come into funding possibly.
Yeah, I remember them having different specializations too for the dogs.
Yes.
You would have the drug dogs, and then you would actually have cadaver dogs, different kinds.
Then you have the explosive devices, which are usually labs. You'll have either a shepherd or a Malinois that's multi-trained. Yeah. They're trained for narcotics. They're trained for even basic searching. They're trained for that. It's just you want, if you don't have any dogs, you want like a shepherd that's trained in everything, Yeah. Where, even if it's not doing explosive devices, that's fine. Because the explosive device dogs, they're trained by feeding. Like they only, when they're trained to get into that, they only eat while they're working. That's just the way they have to be trained. No,
I have dogs. They're food motivated. So you understand what I'm saying? So it's a totally different way of training the dog. So that just not having any dog, it's beyond me. It really doesn't make sense. And I know
it doesn't make sense to me either.
The video of the day they were searching for the girls, there was a guy coming out of the woods with his dog. It was it's a guy just walking his dog on the trails.
Yep.
And I think the guy, the guys that ended up in the water with the red suits on, where they were like walking into the trail while the guy was leaving with his dog. So people were like, "Oh no, there was a canine there. That was not a police canine."
No.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I think that confuses people also.
Well, and there was something else I wanted to speak to also. Somebody had mentioned ego when it came to people not wanting to borrow different animals for different things. Well, there was a bit of tension between some of the state officers and the city officers. Maybe not particularly in Lafayette, but it's certainly in Indianapolis. I do remember that. I lived in Indianapolis, for a while. And so there was tension there. And then you've also got the obvious roadblocks. Sometimes there's no hurry, even if there's a hurry. So it's paperwork.
Well, yes, we also saw the night the girls were missing that. Listen, everybody faults the sheriff. He really, listen, they had I think they had in Delphi, they only had one murder over 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this was number 2 and 3. He really, did he make a mistake by calling the search off? Yes, but the fire, I know, I think it was HLN special last year. The fire chief, who's a volunteer, said that his guys were exhausted. It was getting dangerous, because it was so dark, and he felt that he had to call it off. So that's what he told the sheriff. So at the end of the day, there's not, the sheriff has to go along with that because he only has 13 officers in the whole county. So, it would get dangerous if the fire department's pulling out with their trucks, their lighting, all that stuff. It gets hairy. It does.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
And Tobe, for him, he was even telling them when they were at the police station that night. The family says it, that he was saying that the movie gets out in a half hour. Maybe they're there. He was just did he make mistakes? Yes, but you know what? Look at him on the 14th at the press conference. Everybody, that's where the whole he's shady and he's this and that. No, he just came from the crime scene. He couldn't even speak. It's just that's how violent this crime was. The man couldn't even speak. So that's why they he had some. No, he didn't have anything to do with it. He was at the scene, probably drove right over the press conference, and he was taking that all in.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Christine will tell you, it's not easy when you're at crime scenes. You have to pack it away, and you'll deal with it when you can, because you have a job to do.
Yeah.
And it is it's tough. And I know you started off pretty young too. I was 22 when I started, and I was in New York City, and I was put on a DOA every day. When you're a rookie, that's what they do with you. They stick you on DOAs, and it's kind of like to desensitize you. And
Absolutely.
you're what you experience is mind-boggling, and the normal civilian wouldn't understand, and you don't want to. It's just it's tough. It is.
Well,
yeah, you can see that on his face and also on Doug Carter's. I don't think Doug Carter could even wrap his brain around the idea that someone could actually do this in real life.
100%. Yep.
I think 100%. He was just so stunned.
Yeah,
I did know Doug. And he's a really good guy.
Oh,
I can speak truth to that. He was always just such a great guy.
There's people that run police departments all over the country that you could tell they're a little bit nasty. They don't care. This guy, he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah,
and you could see he's I believe maybe a Christian. He's very into his faith. That's why he brings up the Bible and stuff in the 2019 presser. Like, even with the shack, they're trying to say like, oh, it's because the girls were killed in a shack. That's ridiculous. He's talking about a religious movie, and how in the movie, remember, the father sees his daughter playing in heaven through that waterfall, and he sees his daughter. I don't know if everybody saw that movie, but he sees his daughter's whole again. And that's why Carter says that how you left them is not how they are today. However, he said that statement. He's talking about that they're in heaven and they're whole again. That's the way I take it.
Yeah.
I don't take it this crazy that they were killed. They're not gonna lie. Because if they were brought somewhere, murdered, they would want to say that they were murdered somewhere and then they were dropped somewhere because maybe somebody saw them, elsewhere. There might have been a witness to them being brought into it. That's why it's like, stop with the theories of they were abducted somewhere else and then dumped on Ron Logan's property. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that actually brings me to a question, if I can ask it. It basically has to do with they've been very, very quiet about the method by which the girls had died.
Yeah.
And about any specifics in regards to that. And that makes me wonder, they had mentioned signatures, like there have been rumors of signatures, things like that.
Yeah.
That's obviously a key part of this.
It is. No, it is. And we got to remember something, right? There's signatures and there's staging.
Mm-hmm.
Staging is done to throw law enforcement off, right?
Yeah.
So remember the shifting of gears, and you never thought we were going to go this route.
Mm-hmm.
Was there stuff done at the crime scene that, even though they had Kegan and his devices, that they went in another direction only to return back?
Yeah.
Highly possible. That's why, and Robert Ives, he was a prosecutor. We all have to remember that. He did interviews. He still does interviews today. Even on the 5-year, he said that law enforcement should say how the girls were murdered. And if they don't, they should explain why they're not. Because it's like, it's 5 years, people should know. But me personally, with my career, I know what they've been leaning towards when they describe that crime scene, how violent it is.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, maybe a weapon wasn't used, or maybe they were just strangled. Or it's terrible to even have to talk about, but it was a violent crime scene.
Yeah.
You see it on Tobe's face. Probably a bladed weapon that's got weight to it. That's why I go to a hatchet, a machete, something like that, where, something violent, something, it's tough to even talk about. It is.
And those, unfortunately, are actually incredibly common in Indiana, especially in rural areas.
Of course.
Exactly.
Listen, you know, the last, I want to say the last 15 years, even, you know, knife collectors and weapon collecting has skyrocketed. You know, it's like you have this show like where they're forging weapons and stuff like that. It's like, it's become, you know, it's become pretty mainstream. I don't understand it personally. I really don't. No. But there's people that like collecting different kinds of weapons. You know, even like a little katana, like one of those little smaller katana swords, like you know, something that's you know got weight to it, where you know some serious damage could be done.
Yeah.
Well, with the outdoor culture, and you know, living in rural Indiana, I mean, I grew up not quite 60 miles from Delphi in a small town that was a little bigger than Delphi, but very similar. That's all you do there is hunting in the wintertime and, you know, shooting and everything. And I mean, that's just part of their daily lives there.
And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with collecting stuff. People collect baseball cards. You know, people collect all different things. It's just when you have somebody who's addicted to it. We had a guy we had a domestic call one day, and we had to remove every weapon. You know, this happens at a domestic. You remove every weapon. This guy's attic was full of. I'm talking about. We took out 100 pieces of either a firearm or some kind of knife or sword. This guy, and he had like those medieval weapons, like those weird looking ones with like the like those weird shaped blades. Like it was wild. And it was summertime. It was about 120 degrees in the attic. We were about to pass out, but you had to itemize each one, pack it, and take it out. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what a wacko, you know, like what is he? I mean, what are you doing with all of them? It's like you're buying them and you're just storing them in your attic. What are you doing with them all? You know, it's like anything else. People get addicted to different things.
Yeah. And I think that what really strikes me about that is, can you imagine you were there for a domestic call? Someone called the cops, whether it was his partner in the house or a neighbor, whatever. Yeah. So whatever woman or person was in that house, knowing that man had a freaking arsenal upstairs.
Arsenal.
Because I guarantee you, he'd probably shown it to her before, or at least stuck one in her face before to make sure she knew he meant business. You know.
And also remember too, you know, especially on domestic, what is the one thing the 911 operator will ask is, you know, are there any weapons?
Does he have any weapons? Yeah. Does he have any weapons?
She said no. You know, she said no.
Yep.
You know, that's the whole thing. It's like, be honest. Let us know what's there so we know what we're coming into. You know, that goes back to the, you know, that domestic with in New York City where the two officers were killed. He had a handgun. You know, was it like 4 months ago? About 4 months ago. You know,
about 4 months ago.
The mom called on the son and didn't say he had maybe she didn't know, but you know, he was ready to go. You know, and you know, 2 rookies were murdered. You know, it's terrible.
And those DV calls are the most dangerous calls to respond to as a law enforcement officer.
100%. And you know it from experience, is that even if he's beating up his wife, once you're there and you're taking him into custody, she can turn on you. It happens.
Yep.
It happens.
Oh, I've seen it happen in person.
From you know, victim to she's assaulting you. You know, she doesn't want him to be taken away. And that comes into the whole, you know, how long they're together and, you know, the manipulation that could have went on where she doesn't want him to be taken away now. It's crazy. Right. You know, it is. It's crazy and it's tragic. It happens.
And it's very dangerous for LE to walk in on something like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I told the story on the last one where, you know, a mom called to check on the welfare of her daughter. Married couple, had 1 child and just had a baby in the hospital, and the mom couldn't get through to the daughter. She just got home from the hospital. So we went there, and he wouldn't even open the door. Like, we opened a little crack, and she was behind him holding her infant, and she worded, "Help me."
Oh.
So we blasted the door open, you know, sat them down. He took all the phones. He ripped the phones out of the jack. It's like he didn't want her speaking to her mother.
Oh, of course not.
Oh, yeah. And then it wasn't my call. It was another guy's call. And he said, "Hey, can you just, you know," because we wanted to get to the house, see what was going on. We didn't bring any reports or anything. He goes, "Oh, can you get me a sheet?" He wanted a sheet to fill out a domestic report. The guy attacked me. He thought I was taking his child out of her bed. Like, I don't know where the miscommunication was, but he tried to snap my arm. It didn't end well for him, but he got arrested for assaulting a police officer. But that's how, you know, they could, you know, domestic can change in a second.
Half a second. So fast.
Yeah. You know,
so fast. The victim can very, very easily become an assaultive person or or other family that might be around, or even neighbors, in a close neighborhood, there's a bunch of neighbors out front watching. That can be an issue for officer safety as well.
100%. It's
Collaterals,
so
we
true.
call them.
Yeah, it's so true. And people don't understand. It's like, we're coming into somebody's house. We don't know what's in there, and things can turn in a split second.
Yep.
Split second.
It's horrifying.
It is. It is. But, when you're doing your job, it's like it's second nature to you. You're not even, you're just thinking about, let's separate them, let's see what's going on, and let's watch their hands. It's all about watching where their hands are.
Oh, yeah.
Their eyes, like anything else, their eyes can't hurt you. It's their hands.
Yep. Oh, we got a question. I'm going to answer it. Hello, Impossible Rest.
Did you get her up?
Hello? I invited her.
I don't see her up yet. On
wait.
the top.
Try it. Here, I'll do another. Do it again. She raised her hand again, but I wonder if she's having issues with her microphone, or he is.
Impossible. Just make sure that you're sharing your mic in your settings, because that'll allow you to come up.
Oh, there's another one. Try this one. Was Maricel? Hello?
I don't see her up either. Him or her.
Weird. She's on mine, and I invited her, but she declined my invitation. So, okay.
That could possibly be that his or her mic isn't shared. That's a possibility.
Okay. I just didn't want to miss anybody. I know we can get to talking and not even pay attention to the hands coming up.
I'm looking in the chat. No, nobody, because sometimes in the chat, if you don't want to share your mic and if you don't want to come up, you could also ask a question in the chat.
Right.
That's also there for you.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
still on the thing.
I had a question. So,
come on in.
Sure.
When you were talking about the shack, if we think about what's going on right now with Kaka and his dad TK, in the first 5 minutes of the shack is very telling. Like he's comes home, the kid comes home from school, and the dad's beating the mom, and he's drunk, and the son gets so upset by it because the dad's like a deacon of a church.
Yep.
And so the son gets so upset, and he just feels so guilty that he goes and tells the pastor. And I kind of think that was the sense that maybe they were going with that, was that they wanted the son to tell on the father. And I think that's where the two sketches come from.
That's actually a great point. That could be possible.
Because they had the father sketch at first, and then he said, well, it's both in the same house, because we got to think in the very beginning, they said we were on to something in the very beginning. So both of them lived in the same house. Yes. And so if he's not going to give himself up, then we're going to lure his son in, because it's his son's equipment. It's his son's phone. It's his son, everything. And then they pull out this movie to get his son to tell on his father.
Yeah, that could be possible. But let's remember one thing, though. The sketch we have now, which people will call Young Bridge Guy, whatever they call it, that one was created first. It wasn't released first, but that was created only a few days after the murders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get that too.
Yeah. No, but that is possible. I mean,
look at another thing that gets me.
Look at the questionings with Kegan, the way they were questioning him. He knows something.
Right.
He knows a lot. He could play, he could play dumb and say it's harassment. He could say whatever he wants, but we're seeing where they're leaning heavily, and there's a reason for it. We don't know the exact reason, but there's a reason. Maybe they know a little bit more and just don't have enough yet, or they're right there on the cusp of something.
Right. And so it's another thing that I was going to say, then I'm done, is the searches in Vegas. I mean, how can anybody get past that? People are like making up all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, how can anybody get past it? I mean,
I'll give you a little piece of what I feel like, Vegas, why it happened. You had remember the event on February 20th with the masked men, masked
Right,
man
and
at the
then
other
the
house.
next day they leave and
The-
get the heck out of town.
Yes, but let's also, I'll give you a hypothetical. I'm not saying it's 100% fact or anything, but what happens out in Vegas in the deserts, stuff like that, right?
What happens in Vegas State?
Well,
Yeah.
could
In more than one way.
Let's put it this way, could the stuff that was worn that day be thrown away somewhere out in Vegas and it's gone forever? That's possible.
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's
very
possible.
true.
You
Mm-hmm.
know? That's
And they
why,
keep saying,
maybe that's why a murder weapon has never turned up. I mean, it's just it's just my piece on it. I'm not saying it's fact, but it could be possible.
How can he say he kept trying to contact this guy for weed, but the guy, he couldn't get enough weed for him or whatever? None of that even makes any sense. He is such a liar.
Yeah, he's such a liar. Let's rewind back to him talking about his weed business, right? Like most of all of his answers to any of the questions are pretty brief, but he liked to elaborate on his weed business in the beginning of the interrogation, And he goes on, what if you remove the word weed, right? It's this subscription service where they're not actually paying for the weed. Remove weed and put in CSAM there.
Right.
And you got, that's what makes more sense to me. That's what I take from that.
I agree.
He was describing some type of business that had nothing. Yes, he did deliver a little bit of weed here and there in Vegas, but we're not really seeing this huge business he had going on with weed. Did he smoke it? Yeah, he seemed like he did.
Talked about that other friend of his, the guy that lives on Bicycle Bridge Road. He talked about that, or Country Club Road. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Country Club. Yeah.
Being a big drug dealer that he didn't want his name associated with. Remember that?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I think he makes a distinction in his own mind about someone who might peddle a dime bag here and there, or someone who's moving pounds of it.
To somebody who's doing weight. But also, is there another reason why he's never brought that person up?
Oh, I can't associate myself.
Is it more than just, this guy having a large weed business? Because they say to him, out of all the interviews they've had with Kegan, he's never mentioned this guy, but they feel he's one of his best friends.
Right.
So
wasn't that the craziest thing he said though? Was, I can't associate myself as a drug dealer. It's like,
oh yeah. Well, that comes down to like his moral compass and whatnot. That's just seeing where his mindset is.
He also doesn't seem to believe that the people that he's victimizing through these photographs and these videos are actual people.
Well, he desensitizes himself from it. It's like they're just online.
Yeah,
they're only somebody online.
Like Anthony Schatz. Anthony Schatz isn't real.
Yeah. And think about Barbara's interview with him, where he talks about how he said something like, what was I getting at? Oh, about his father. My father abandoned me, and this is all I did. That's a weird statement there. Yeah, that's all you did. How many kids did you victimize?
He's got some serious issues with his most formative developmental years, having been exposed to TK and
violence,
other family
violence,
the violence, from a very, very young age, probably before he was even able to speak.
Well, let's think about that too, right? Even as a child, what do you do when you're trying to escape something? Did he build this other persona to hide away some pain? That's possible.
Absolutely.
That's a possibility.
I think he's got a real I think he's very conflicted and very torn about his relationship with his father. And that came up in the transcripts, the most recent ones, the ones that had the transcripts that were on DelphiDocs, that was someone unredacted and went ahead and typed them out, and I don't remember, or I'm sorry, they were redacted, but there was a page, it was towards the end, there was a few pages where he was talking about, I think it was page 95 is where it starts, where he talks about being afraid that his father will never talk to him again.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then he was shocked to find out that the cops had already told him back in 2017 that.
But do we really believe that when they were at the search warrant, the father didn't know why they were there? They did interview him briefly because they wanted to confirm who was the account holder with Comcast, and the router, that it was secure. I'm more positive that they were in the dad's name, so that's why they just briefly interviewed him. But they're going to tell you why they're there.
Exactly. Well, they have to.
So,
it's search warrant.
Yes. they're getting all the electronic device out of the house, and they're going to tell them the reason we're here is your son is involved in, blank.
Yep.
So you could see he did lie a lot. He did try to manipulate the officers a lot.
Yes, he did.
He tried to pack away stuff that he didn't want to be in, even the young child stuff. I got to be honest, the way I took it is that, that might not be his thing. That might be somebody else's thing, that he like kind of flipped out about the young stuff.
Yes, he did. And I don't believe.
So was his thing like 13 and up,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody else's was, lower aged, possible.
Yeah, that was the only time he started questioning about whether he should have a lawyer, was when they brought up the really young kid stuff. He was like, this is bullshit. This isn't me. I want a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, people are like, oh, he's just hiding it. Well, he snapped for a reason. He did not want to be associated with that at all.
Did not.
Yeah.
So I think he's having a hard time making that distinction and kind of realizing that maybe his father is capable of something like that.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Well,
Very
Yeah,
true.
he does admit that in
didn't-
in the interview with Barbara McDonald. He does say that he thinks that his dad was the other person on there. So,
Oh, of course. Well, that's
you know what I
the thing
mean?
is that
So he
had
does
a long
actually
time-
admit
he had
that,
a long
yeah,
time to
he's the only
stew,
other person.
Yeah,
their interrogation was August 19th of 2020, and Barbara's was the end of 2021. So there's a lot of time in between for him to really start thinking about what he's been saying.
Yep.
He does push a lot towards his father, where he didn't want to bring up anything towards his dad when law enforcement, interrogated him.
Right. So that's my question too. Do you think he didn't know that his dad had done that to his brother?
That could be possible, because even the younger even the stepbrother talks about how much younger Kegan was from him. So yeah, that could be, he could have been maybe 2 or 3. He could have been very small and not know.
Right.
That's possible.
that is absolutely 100% possible.
And Kegan, I think he says it to Barbara, that he's his only son by his father had one true son. Yes, he had stepchildren, but that was his father's only child that he birthed, that he was involved with birthing.
Right.
But I
And
also
also
found it
in
crazy how the father changed the stepbrother's name in school, to like to push ownership on the stepchild, on what was his name, Bart?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That's interesting too. It's like,
I couldn't believe that honestly happened. That's crazy. That is some level of control. I mean, absolute 100% control. It's pretty.
Yeah, even in the picture with TK, and you can see their age difference, like when they were younger, like when the sister had the cast on her leg.
Yes.
And then Kegan's in the middle, and he's like 1, 2, and then Bart is like about 7.
Yeah.
So there is a big age difference. So I believe that, yeah, he was way too young to even know that.
But I also believe that he knows deep down that his father is capable of something like that, because I guarantee you it happened, I think Bart said that he lived with them until he was like junior high age or something. So by the time you get to be 4, 5, 6 years old, you're going to remember this stuff, especially because it's a traumatic memory that happens to you. It's like a core memory that happens to you when you are so young and in that super important, developmental stage where those things, your brain is still developing, and that's exactly how it develops is in that kind of environment. So I think he knows, and I think he had seen his father do similar things before, maybe not necessarily to someone in his family, but I know he understands that his father was abusive to his mother. He said that. I just think maybe he's kind of minimizing. I think he still kind of has a lot of admiration for his dad in a lot of ways, and I think he's minimizing his dad's possible involvement because he just can't wrap his brain around that yet, can't rectify it yet in his own head.
I mean, I was the same way though, because I have the CTPSD one, but it, from long-term stuff over time, and it does, like, all that stuff does stay with you for forever. Like that stuff always like comes in your head just out of nowhere. I mean, so I could see that. Like, he remembers the gun incident. He remembers certain things. Like, some people have different ways of dealing with it. Maybe he just disassociated. He like went into that fantasy world. You
Yep.
know, some people like deal different ways. I dealt with things very bad until I moved to Florida when I was like 19 or 20. Yeah. So, and that's when my dad made me get go to a psychiatrist and all that. You know, that's how I didn't even know anything was wrong with me. I didn't even know that there was like all this stuff that had happened was the reason why I was the way I was. So it's like, I think he just doesn't, maybe he just needs like, if he had counseling or something, he would like understand himself a little bit more.
That's a good point. But again, you have to be willing to go to counseling and actually be honest and open up about things. And in my experience, a lot of especially young males, just aren't there yet. Just really have a hard time opening up to people.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That was my dog.
Go right ahead.
Trying to get them to stop playing so I can talk. No, I was going to mention how the way that Kegan talks about his father reminds me a lot of my own relationship with my mother. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I did have a narcissistic mother. And it's very much a love-hate relationship where this is the person that's the most important to you in the entire world. And you want nothing more than for them to love you and to accept you. But you also have this fighting inside of you that's like, you know, this person is treating me badly. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I see a lot of that in his behavior and how he is desperate to make sure that his father is still going to associate with him.
Absolutely.
All of this.
Yeah, I think that's true also. And it's so common amongst survivors of childhood abuse and witnessing DV as a child. It's so common. Even some of the most horrendous child abuse cases that I worked on, including a few deaths, there were still people in those families that were still talking about what a great person they was and what a great father he was, except for that time he killed his kid. It's really hard for folks to wrap their brains around it. And unless you've lived that and that's all you've ever known, Kegan grew up in a very dysfunctional environment, and violence was, every day an occurrence for him. And
it's very true.
It messes with your brain. Absolutely does. So he's got a lot swirling around in that little round head of his, that's for sure.
Yeah, it took me living in Florida probably, like, I would say probably about 5 years ago is like probably when I finally like let go of the relationship with my mom, because my mom is the one that basically caused a lot of stuff that I went through after my parents got divorced. But yeah, it took me a long time to stop talking to her, and even now, like, she'll message me and then I feel guilty, like, that I'll message her, but I refuse to talk to her on the phone. I like try to keep my distance, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do. So,
that is very hard. It is. You're trying to remove the toxic from your life, but at the same time, it's like you're like, oh, that's my mom, but there comes a point where there's no going back from it.
Well, yeah, in the situation that we're looking at here, all that he's ever known is toxicity.
Yep.
And you mentioned the disassociation, and that fits in very well with the Anthony Schatz profile.
Yeah.
Building this person that is perfect, building this
persona, exactly.
Yep.
Wealthy, good looking,
Which is why he probably doesn't even think what he did was a crime.
Yeah. Well, he says at the bar about his dad not talking to him anymore. This is all I did.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
That's because his normal life, his whole life has been like that.
Yeah.
That's like the same with me. My whole life has been like that. So when I was away from that and I came and I was around normal people, I didn't even understand. Like, I couldn't even like pretend to be like them. I thought they were like all goody goodies or something. It was so strange. It's like going to another country or something. I can't even explain it. But when you're around toxic people all the time, and you're around abuse, and you're around seeing stuff like that all the time, when you when you see how normal people are, it's like night and day. You just can't even comprehend it. So
Yeah,
I
and then when
agree.
you realize, you start thinking, oh my God, I am the fucked up one and everybody else is okay. So I'm the problem here.
Yeah, that's
And
very true. That is
that's
very
where
true.
that
It
shame
is.
spiral starts, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you get older, bigger and bigger.
And people normalize some of it where they feel
Absolutely.
that it's, you know, this is just normal to, you know, to my life. But if it's that toxic, there, you know, you gotta make some changes. It's tough, especially when it's family. It's tough to draw a line and say that's it for me.
Very difficult. I also cut off contact with my biological mother. She's been dead now for 10 years, but I didn't speak to her for like the last 3 years of her life.
Yeah, I'm sorry that she passed
And
away. It's tough. I get it.
But you know what? I can't blame myself. I was doing what I needed to do to be able to be healthy and be productive, you know, and I just
100%.
it's
See,
just
that's exactly what I'm scared of. That is
Yeah.
exactly what I'm scared of. Like, I feel like if I don't talk to my mom, something's going to happen to her, and then I'm going to feel like shit the rest of my life. So
You know,
that is exactly what my problem is.
you can talk to her after she's gone. I've done it. And it was a lot easier for me to do that now that she's gone, because she can't interrupt me and tell me I'm wrong or I'm remembering things wrong or anything like that. I just
Oh my,
like
it sounds
a
just like my
like some
mom.
type of manipulation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom still to this day like doesn't admit anything to any of us. Like she denies everything, or she doesn't remember. I mean, I have like 5 siblings, and none of them talk to her besides me and my brother, and we only talk to her through messaging, and barely. So that, I mean, that's how bad she is. But
Well, it makes
like,
me,
that's my issue. I'm the oldest, so I was always the one that had to protect her from all these horrible people that she brought into our lives. So
Exactly.
I have that, you know, that same thing that you did. I wish I could do that. Like, honestly, like yeah, that's one thing I wish I could do.
You know, I struggled with it right after she died. I was really upset and pissed off at myself, but I worked through that, and I realized that I was doing the best I could with what I had to deal with at that time, and that's all
you have to get healthy. You have to make yourself healthy. Healthy.
Yep.
I
That's
totally get
awesome. Congratulate. I mean, wow, that's amazing.
It's got to be the hardest thing to do to eliminate family, but at the same time, you have to have your mental health, because if you don't have your mental health, you don't have anything.
Right.
I have to
and
say
that was the breaking point.
Sorry.
No, there's just everybody has their own breaking point.
Yeah.
And until you get to you'll know it when you get to yours. I promise you'll know it.
Yeah,
I feel it.
I lost my mom to cancer 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
A very difficult relationship, and it was very much that narcissistic, empathic. Like, I really needed to make her happy, wanted to make her happy. That was like the goal of my life. But I feel like the hardest thing for me to deal with has been not mourning the woman that she was, but mourning the fact that I will never have the mother that I wanted.
Right.
And so that's what I've had to come to terms with myself. Like, I keep reminding myself, like, she's not going to be, and she can't be now, the person that you wanted. And I think that that's a lot of what we see with cases where, unfortunately, it's like a child and a parent, in that there's this parasitic, almost kind of toxic desire to be fulfilled by this person that's never going to give you that fulfillment.
Exactly. It's enmeshment, and it's really, really, really hard to break out of. And it's anybody who even tries, like, makes an attempt to try to break the cycle, kudos to them. It's a very brave and courageous thing to do. It's not easy. Once you start addressing your trauma, it gets a lot harder before it gets better. It's like opening up a can, and then you just open the whole thing and it just comes flooding back at once. And so it's got to be one thing at a time, very, very deliberate. It's not linear. I can tell you, in my recovery, I have gone back and forth and up and back, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times. And you just have to keep going. It's really, really tough, but you deserve it. I mean, that's what it came down to. I deserve it. I did not deserve the things that happened to me when I was a child. Nobody does. I did not. I didn't ask for it. And unfortunately, trauma survivors, we're the ones who are left to actually handle it on our own. when we should have had, you know, a caring adult around at the time.
Stability. You should have
Exactly.
stability.
Yeah. So it's harder for us.
You do
It's like,
see,
yeah.
if you know, especially when it's the mom that there's a lot going on, you do see a lot, even on domestic calls. The daughter is the one that tries to hold the family together.
Absolutely. Especially with older children.
They take the most of it because, you know, they want to keep their family together, and they had to take the grunt of the abuse and whatnot. It's tragic. It really is.
It's way too.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Because my sisters are both like, they're a lot younger than me. Like, my one sister's 11 years younger, the other's 14 years younger.
Oh,
So
wow.
when my mom was in all these bad relationships, I had to like, I was older, so I had to protect them,
and you were
and I had to
mom,
protect
you
my
were
mom.
playing mom as a young
Yeah, it was
a
horrible.
teenager. You were protecting your siblings.
Yeah, I had that, and her too, because she didn't even do anything to stop anything. So yeah,
well, because she was probably in fear of losing the guy she brought around, and
that's all
even
she
if he
cared
was
about.
a loser, to her it was her safety. But it didn't matter what was going on with you kids. It's terrible. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's you just see so many adults that are suffering with it, and I commend any of you that are able to talk about it, because you have to be able to talk about it. You know, there's only so long you could bottle it all up. It's just you have to be able to, you know, to get it out and be able to breathe.
Exactly. And the more you let it out, the little bit easier it becomes.
Yeah, that's true.
Inch by inch. True.
Well, and that's really in this particular case, swinging back, like, that's why I don't believe that TK doesn't have anything to do with this.
Oh, I don't either.
Because it's just so heavily
it goes deep. It's deep.
Yeah,
it is. It's
towards
deep.
that behavior that is, I mean, when somebody, I consider, you know, KK to be quite young.
Oh, absolutely. Even back when the murders happened, he was 22. He was 22 years old.
And a very immature 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Fragile, you know, fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Where he was living his persona, doing his, you know, he was trying to, it seems like he was trying to avoid confrontation with his father.
Yeah.
And using this as his escape.
Yep.
You know, destroying children's lives.
Not only an escape, but a way to pacify potentially.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That's true.
If this was TK's original interest, if this is the thing that he's interested in, how many times have you seen children in a much, much more benign way adopt an interest that their parent has to please them?
Exactly.
That's very true.
Psychological.
Dad, look what I got today, right? Yeah. Dad, look what I got today.
Look what this girl sent me, you know?
Yeah. That's true. It's a horror when you think about it. It really is. On so many levels, it's horrific. But yeah, I don't believe that he isn't involved. And we go back to the 13th, you know, when them saying that 2 different devices were signing in and signing the other out. I feel
at
there
the
was
same
a confrontation going on, because on Snapchat, I don't know if it's still today. I don't use it, but I do know, and people have confirmed it, that only one person, one device, one of your devices could be signed in at a time.
Right.
So I feel there was a hostile takeover going on in that house. And, you know, was Kegan thinking to himself, I got to stop this? I don't know, you know, but there was something going on where they were fighting over who was talking to her.
And that's a weird thing, too, to feel like you have to be in competition with your father. That's something that'll mess you up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's really deep messed. I mean, that's really horrible that he felt like that. I'm not saying I have sympathy for him. I don't. I'm just trying to look at things in the bigger picture.
Nobody has sympathy for him. He's where he needs to be. He's where he deserves to be.
Absolutely.
You certainly have empathy for somebody. I mean, we're essentially looking at somebody who is more than likely a child of an insane amount of abuse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from when he was a toddler, it seems like. From when he was a toddler.
But
he had fear of that man from when he was young.
Yeah.
And his father, it seems like he's got, you know, like he's got such a, you know, before this stuff came out, he had such a social life where I don't think a lot of people knew how crazy he is. You know, he was pretty good. Seems he's pretty good at hiding who he truly was.
I think in rural Indiana, that's not as hard as you think it is, CD.
No, I mean, that could be possible too. No, that's true. Yeah, especially he's into racing. You're only seeing those people on if it's Saturdays or whatnot.
Exactly.
So you're able to hide what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there have been different law agencies that had contact with him. He had the arrest for stalking and things before, domestic violence. I mean, the problem is those departments don't talk to each other a lot of the time, and so they might not even know that he has that record. I think what happened in this case was a very big confluence of a lot of agencies being involved, but no one talking to each other.
True. That's true. Because even I think Bart says that when law enforcement was at the house, many of the other times that he wasn't arrested, they would tell him, you can't be doing this.
Yes.
So there was a little bit of, was it not protection by law enforcement, but they were kind of like, oh, you can't do this kind of stuff. You gotta, you gotta calm down with your kids, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Earl, Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. That absolutely could be why,
That abuse and that domestic abuse, that child abuse, we take it more seriously now.
Yeah.
But I'm in a smaller city. I don't live in a 1,200 person town ananymore. But
yeah. But remember also how distant, the distance between the homes.
Yeah.
You didn't have neighbors witnessing it and calling it in, That's another piece of it.
2 cops in a town and you get the call about, oh, Johnson's smacking his wife around again. I hope she gives it to him good this time,
Yeah.
They write up something
So
real quick.
true.
They're like,
that is so true.
I could high school
I could see that.
Something like that. It's just so small.
Oh yeah, Johnny drank too much and he's crying. I hope she hits him with the bat. It's just, it's crazy when you think about what could be going on in people's homes and the whole thing is some states back in the 90s and stuff, they would intervene to break it up, but they wouldn't make arrests. Now New York State, there's any kind of physical altercation, somebody's getting arrested, if not both, and then you let the court deal with it. That doesn't go on everywhere.
Yeah, think about the case with the van girl, the Gabby Petito case.
Oh yeah, tragic.
That was just rushed off.
Tragic. That poor girl. I mean, I can't even imagine what she went through the few days before he murdered her.
And look how much we learned from the internet.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we found everything out in a matter of days from the internet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you got to remember. Something like, I'm not saying everybody in their van life are doing things, but he was able to hide who he really was by being on the road and not interacting with the same people. He was able to keep his van until that one scene where somebody saw him slapping her.
I really thought he was going to be the one that had killed those other girls.
Oh, I know. I totally get that, but I just the whole reason why I didn't see it was because he flew back. So where'd the gun come from? Because he did fly. I think there was a 3 days part where he flew home to empty a storage locker.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so to get the firearm back there and whatnot, that's a tough one. But yeah, he's what a psycho. I just
Absolutely.
When you think about how do you hurt the person you love the most? How does it get to that level? That's something that just never makes sense. But he seemed to be holding her down and manipulating everything to where she became so fragile. The only place she felt she should be was with him.
Yep. Because he was the only one that loved her and the only one who could love her the way he did. It's a very dangerous path to go down.
Yeah. Sounds a little.
Yes, it is. It is.
That's why you got to break the cycle. That's what
Exactly.
I did. When I moved down here and I had kids, I never laid a hand on my kids. They get grounded or to get their phones taken away. They are good students. They're in sports. Nothing like me at all. Yeah. And my cousin is the same way. She moved away and she got out of. Well, I'm from New York. I'm from Utica. You probably know where that is, CD.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah,
that's a hellhole.
Yeah, that's up there. Yep.
Yeah. So that environment is all toxic. There's certain areas in this country that are like that. So I think, just getting out of the environment and just basically like just breaking the cycle, being like totally opposite of what your parents, your mom or your dad or both are. I think that right there just it ends it. It doesn't keep going and going through every generation. You know.
And look at Gabby's parents. You know, her biological parents and the step parent. It's amazing what they're doing today. You know, to keep her name out there and to help domestic violence victims. It's commendable. It really is.
Yeah, that's very brave of them, and I know it's definitely part of their healing process. And
they have it's so recent that they have such open wounds, and they're still able to
help
others and give back is wow. It's very, very impressive. Very impressive people.
They are.
You know, and the other family, you know, okay, legally, you know, they could go on their whole legal side, but morally, what was right was to talk to that family, and they didn't. They failed.
Absolutely. Yes. That was the most disgusting part of the whole thing to me, honestly. Like, how can you
see them go? They're going out to get groceries, and everybody camped out. The news camped out from their house, and just saying nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole thing is they allowed him to take the walk to go and take the easy way out. You know.
Yes, they did.
It's hard. That's a horrifying case. It really is. It just shows you how, you know, big a piece of shit people could be.
And this was in 2021. This happened. This was just in the last year.
Yeah, I think wasn't it August? I think it was.
It was last
July.
August. Yeah, July, August. But you just think, okay, so in the 90s, domestic violence advocates were trying to meet with law enforcement officials and provide trainings and, you know, situational awareness, things like that for these kinds of cases. And that's where it began. Here we are 30 years later now. And these cops, the ones that were involved when he was reported that he was hitting her, they didn't even get that information right from dispatch. And so they didn't even pursue that angle. I mean,
well, I also think that there were 3 different police agencies there on that stop when they stopped the van.
Yes.
And it seemed there was a lot of confusion of like who's talking to their dispatch. Nobody's, you know, there wasn't great communication. The whole thing is there was a female officer there. She should have been with Gabby instantly.
Yes.
You know, get her comfortable so that she's able to tell you what the hell's going on.
Yes.
Not have 2 different guys talk to her where she feels, in a sense, kind of threatened. Like, you know, you could see it all over her face, but she wasn't able to tell them what was going on.
No, but she felt completely ganged up on, and I don't blame her. I would have felt the same way in that situation.
Yeah.
What gets me,
and also the problem is that she did admit to hitting him.
Yes.
So that kind of put her as you know, she wasn't the victim possibly. So that's why it was like, you know, there was a lot of confusion there.
And
I hate the Monday morning quarterback, what anybody in law enforcement does, but there was too much going on. You know, 3 different agencies, nobody's, you know, they're trying to figure out. It's kind of like they were trying to, like, you know, get them on their way because they don't, you know, they're not from there, you know. Well, but you know what I have to say though, because, you know, people are like, well, why did he get to stay in the hotel? Well, the van was registered to her.
Yeah,
you know, that's one thing that they had to be done that way. You couldn't turn the van over to him when they're in the middle of a domestic, so she had to take the possession of the van.
And she also admitted to scratching him when he was feet away from the police. And what gets about that is that it essentially became framed as she was the one who was abusing him.
She was the aggressor. Yeah.
Yes. And then they didn't want to arrest her because of, it's
kind of like they're saying, you know, we're giving you a break.
Yeah. You are a small female. Yeah. We don't want to arrest you. You clearly couldn't hurt him. I think they even said that you wouldn't be capable of hurting him.
Yeah.
No,
I think to her.
She would be able to, but because it doesn't matter how big you are, you can still hurt someone.
Yeah, but not like seriously.
And really get in there.
Yeah.
That's a different thing altogether. And again, adequate training of officers who are responding to these situations could have prevented some of that. It's all about the training and the experience of doing it and learning what it looks like when it happens in real time. Very, very difficult to put yourself in that situation until you're in it and you're seeing it real time. And it's a lot easier to go back and say, oh, I wish I'd done that and that. But that's where your training is supposed to kick in those situations. And if you don't have it, that's extensive enough or for a long enough period of time, it's not going to be there when you need it. Very true. That's very true. Unfortunately, that case just broke my heart. No, I think it pulls on everybody's heartstrings because we were able to watch the whole thing pretty much unfolding, right in front of us. Yep. It's very tough. But it's been an hour and over an hour and 15. I have to get off in a couple. So do we want to figure out a closeout and we'll do it again? Sure.
Thank you, guys.
Questions?
Thank you, guys.
This was a great live. We'll definitely do another Red Talk again, Christine. It was great being with you too.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Any final thoughts from anybody? Anybody want to say anything final? Yeah, I think we're good.
Guess we're done.
Justice for Libby and Abby.
Yes, 100%. I think, Christine, it's coming. It's coming.
Thank you.
Closer.
Thank you all very much. I do feel I feel like it's close.
Yeah, I believe we are getting close for sure.
I've been here since day one, so I've never had a POI. I just listen and take it all in, and
yes,
I try to be considerate. I don't like to really talk on what people are talking about a person of interest because that you're ruining that person's life.
100%, especially if it's somebody that's never been spoken about. That's true. Right. Even that whole DP theory. That's why I just don't even want to hear it. It's so far out there. The pictures under the bridge that there's nothing there, and they're making things appear. I had somebody with 20 years experience look at those photos. That's all the person does. And
I was in management for many years. And the one thing with how we would vet people instead of spending money to go and have our own, have law enforcement give us a record, we would do our own. True. That's how I become a sleuth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
this was great. I'm getting off. It was good talking to you guys.
Yeah, I got an appointment I got to run too. It was great talking to everyone. And if anyone has any questions after, just shoot them to me and I'll be glad to answer them. And we'll do it again. I have a list of resources for people who are dealing with trauma, and I can always post that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
This was a great live.
Bye-bye.